Time for the politics fix with the former managing editor of the Chicago Tribune, and a great one, and MSNBC contributor Jim Warren, and the Politico's Ken Vogel. And this is off the Politico today. And you have to read the website. You have to go to that website. It's a must-read website. Here we go. The list of governors threatening to decline federal stimulus money last month read like a list of Republicans considering running for president in 2012. Governors Mark Sanford, Bobby Jindal, and Sarah Palin led the anti-stimulus charge. But what began with a bang is ending with something closer to a whimper. All three of those governors have been forced to scale back their expectations to varying degrees as the push of conservative philosophy gave way to the pull of political reality. Jim Warren, I understand, I think, a bit about where the conservative wing of the Republican Party and conservatives in general are coming from. But let's take South Carolina, for example, and Mark Sanford, who's a pretty good golfer and I guess has been a pretty good governor down there. South Carolina has a very high unemployment rate. I don't get what's going on when you turn back money, or said you were going to turn back money, that could help the people in your state. What's the deal, you think?
First of all, Mike, speaking about money, namely how costly Red Sox tickets will be next year, as a Yankee fan, may I wish you and the entire Red Sox nation, Ben Affleck, Stephen King, a painful and long season. But back to politics and real money. You know, it's not just a matter of politics. You've got something like an 11% unemployment rate in South Carolina. You've got a substantial number of kids, 18, 19, 20%, living in poverty. And though I think Mark Sanford is being very intellectually honest, I think he's a very smart guy. I think he's a true blue conservative. When even your best bud, Lindsey Graham, U.S. Senator, turns against you, when a couple of days ago you can only get 11 out of about 100 Republicans in the legislature to be standing next to you, you know you've got problems. And I think the underlying problem is that right now the Republican Party, Mark Sanford included, is relegated to just saying no, no, no to everything the Obama administration is doing. And as national party, they don't seem to have formulated as yet any really coherent response to all this. So the old mantra, which has held them in good stead, one will have to admit, particularly in states like South Carolina, of lower taxes, less spending, smaller government, is just not working. And when you listen to someone like Joshua Ramo, who you had on before, talking about the complexity of the situation, you realize why the old, seemingly tried and true answers aren't working, which is why the public is very, very supportive of Obama, and conservatives in a state like South Carolina are not heeding their Republican governor.
Ken Vogel, as you cover this, as you write about it, where does it happen that, or does it happen, that ideology has a stranglehold on common sense, especially among Republicans on the right?
Well, look, ideology is, and saying no, just to be the party of sort of loyal opposition, is a lot easier when you're in Congress and less damaging. I mean, these governors have to actually run a state, and what we're seeing here is a situation where using the governorship as a platform to raise your national profile is actually in conflict with governing and running that state. So in these cases, these governors all really got beaten up over this at home by their state legislatures, by their local media, and it's, you know, maybe they came out of it with a little bit higher of a national profile. Sanford certainly spent a lot of time, you know, talking about this on the cable news shows, but I think it ends up being a wash, because you have to be a good governor to use the governorship to position yourself for a run at the presidency or anything else.
Yeah, you know, I agree with you, Jim, about Mark Sanford. I think he is intellectually honest, but it begs the question off of what Ken just raised. Who would be the big Republican, if you had to name one right now, the odds-on choice to top that ticket in 2012?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. If you remember at this time, you know, in the last cycle, if you would have bet $1 on some guy named Barack Obama from Illinois, no way. What, about 6, 7, 8 months after his Boston Convention speech? So I don't know. I mean, I think Sanford's, you know, a strong guy. I mean, if you had some beauty polls right now, Sarah Palin would obviously show up high. But the complexity of what's going to play out, particularly with this economy, is such that I think you'd be rather foolish in betting on any single guy right now.
Yeah, I know, but at least, you know, 2, 3 years ago, there were some big names on both sides. Now there are names that very few people have ever heard of, but we're going to be back. We're back with Jim Warren and Ken Vogel. Ken, the polarization factor in the House and the Senate, Washington, D.C., actually. Give me a sense of where you think it is. Same as it ever was? Better? Worse?
I think it's pretty much same as it ever was. Certainly there were some overtures early on, and Obama really reached out to the House Republican caucus as well as the Senate Republicans. There was a little bit of a compromise on the stimulus. Democrats got 3 Republicans on board, but I think that's kind of collapsed a little bit here, and we're seeing the positions really harden, particularly on spending when we talk about the stimulus, when we talk about the budget, where Republicans are starting to coalesce around this idea that more spending is not going to fix this problem. Though they do risk becoming the party of no, it is a clear position for them, and I think that we're going to see the polarization continue here as they focus more and more on exclusively economic revitalization types of measures.
Jim Warren, you've known and covered this president for several years. Give me a sense of his personality and how he deals with this polarization. Does he keep going at it to try and draw people from the other side of the aisle, or eventually does he just drop the curtain and say we're going our own way?
Well, no. I mean, I think you see is a very compromising initial impulse. A guy wants to bring everybody into a tent. You also see sort of this preternatural calm, which I think is holding him in very good stead, and maybe one reason why so many Americans, even low-income Americans, are trusting him right now.
Yeah.
But he does ultimately have agenda. He wants to change the political calculus in this country. He reached out on Capitol Hill, and folks didn't come back, so he's now laying down the law in a very, very straight, clear, at times ideological fashion. But it's not necessarily his first intent and modus operandi.
Jim Warren, Ken Vogel, thanks very much.